The U.S. military said today 2 American soldiers were killed this week in Iraq. Many soldiers who survive combat return home with post-traumatic stress disorder, and spouses suffer along with them. David Martin has been looking into this, and he met with military wives who are fighting their own battle here at home.
Sergeant David Romanowski suffered multiple concussions during 2 tours in Iraq. His wife Gayla has been dealing with the aftershocks ever since.
A lot of times I would feel like I was holding all of this in. I don't know how to take care of my husband. He can't get out of bed.
She is one of 12 stressed-out military wives brought together at Walter Reed Army Medical Center.
I was so happy finally when they called and they said that they are starting something up, and finally you're not alone. There's other people that feel exactly the same way that you do.
Living with the dual scourges of their husband's brain injuries and post-traumatic stress disorder, they see what the rest of us don't.
Night terrors, outbursts, severe anxiety.
I think the sadness that he felt was the worst part for me. That's very hard for me to see my husband cry and get upset and just know that there's nothing I can do for him.
The expectations I had was for him to come home and be the man that I married, but I don't think that man will ever come back home.
He is still very loving and caring. It's harder for him to be loving and caring to people who he loves and cares about. But I know he loves me. He just doesn't show it.
The 12 women in that room are married to servicemen who have been deployed overseas a total of 55 times. And their stories are not at all unusual.
I put my wife through hell.
Now retired Marine Sergeant Hector Medina came home from Iraq with PTSD. Did your wife say, Hector, what's going on here?
Yes, she asked me, and I said, well, nothing. But she's like, no, since you came back, you're not the same person anymore.
All we had to do pretty much was just look at each other and start fighting. He just didn't like anything.
Shalzi Medina had been married to Hector for 12 years then, but didn't recognize the angry man who came home from Iraq. Did you feel like he was on a hair trigger?
Like I said, it didn't even take much to make him angry. You could almost kind of look at him wrong and he'd sort of snap.
And when he snapped, what would he do?
Yell, slam a door, stuff like that.
My wife kind of drew the line, and she said, you don't do something about it, I'm leaving.
But when he went looking for help, he was not satisfied with what he found. When you saw the psychiatrist, how long did you talk to him?
15 minutes, 30 minutes max. How do you do? How do you feel? Do you have any suicide thoughts? No? Okay. You need to refill your meds? Yes. Okay. Here's your meds. And off we go.
The Medinas worked it out, even though it took Hector 6 years to find a program he liked, and there was no help for Shalzi. Now there's this program for spouses, but it's one of a kind and only for a dozen at a time.
I think it's very small compared to the larger need.
Colonel Charles Engel, who set up the program, says the military is only now coming to grips with the effect brain injuries and PTSD can have on families.
We've been at war for a decade at this point, and on some level, even for those of us who are in, it's sort of shocking that we continue to learn as we go, and sometimes we got to swallow hard when we realize that we're this far in and we're just seeing some things.
To date, the military has diagnosed 78,000 cases of PTSD. But the chairman of the Joint Chiefs has cited estimates based on Veterans Administration data that put the real number close to 800,000. To catch up with numbers like that, he says, there will have to be programs like this in communities all over the country.
There's so many other people out there who are missing out, and it's hard because you don't want to have to see other people going through what you went through.
And there will be still more. The military's latest mental health survey of combat troops in Afghanistan found 20%. 1 in 5 suffering from acute stress, depression, or anxiety. David Martin, CBS News, Walter Reed Army Medical Center.